Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
And as always, I want to just double check, make sure we got it. So many of you guys are familiar with this movie, Avatar. I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was really cool, wasn't it?
I loved Avatar, and the only regret that I have is that when it first came out, I listened to the people who criticize movies, and they said this was a bad movie, so I didn't watch it. But gosh, when I did watch it, everything the rest of the puzzles fell into place.
Yes. And this video is going to be it's about a message that we received from Mother Mary today. And I just want to recap some premises and ideas of how the universe works. So, Avatar introduced for many people the concept that we can be in different bodies. You know, as this on the left is Jake in his human form, and then he jumps his consciousness into the body of a native being from a different planet, which humanity is going to. Unfortunately, to do what it does, which is to destroy the divine feminine and basically, rape and pillage it for its natural resources.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar. I also find it extremely crazy that this movie, which has gone down as, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, it was the biggest at one point in time, still might be the biggest movie of all time. And they keep pushing back the sequels. I mean, it's been forever since the original came out. I think there's a reason for this, honestly. I do think that they don't want this whole concept sinking into too many people's minds.
No, they don't. They know what to put in the forefront and make popular. They're the ones who make things popular. If we haven't figured that out by now, they want it to be popular so they can control your mind.
Absolutely. But this whole concept is something that's recognized in so many different traditions. The fact that we are consciousness that inhabits many forms over time. We find it when we look over into the Vedic, the Hindu tradition, and actually we should call it the Sanatana Dharma, really, because Hindu just means those of the Indus Valley area. But this tradition's ancient, and it recognizes that we incarnate time and time and time again. Vishnu is known as the preserver of the universe, the preserving force, preserving being of the universe, one of a trinity. And again, this whole concept of the trinity was something that was debated over in Nicaea back in 325 AD, over 300 years after Yeshua left, or, around 300 years, being that what we got was that he did not truly die on the cross, which that's very controversial, I'm sure, for the masses, but that's what the mainstream version teaches us, is that he died on the cross for your sins, a blood sacrifice to a God that only the blood sacrifice would appease. And, we have shared with you guys, as others have gotten too, that his mission was not about blood sacrifice at all. It was about illumination, opening up the heart chakra, understanding how the universe works, and changing the system. As he had said, the God of this world is not his God at all. And he wouldn't go along with the mainstream dogma because he wasn't teaching dogma. And that's a whole nother story. So we also see that there is a divine feminine to the divine masculine. It's just about balance. When we look at the Tao symbol, the yin and yang sign, well, it's half white, half black. The white has black in it, the black has white in it. And in totality, there is a oneness to it. This is part of getting to understand how things really, really work. And by the way, we look at Vishnu and Lakshmi, and we look at Rama and Sita, and Radhe or Radha and Krishna. The divine feminine incarnates with the divine masculine. And that's another concept to keep in mind. And so when we look at these beings, they've worn many faces over time. And when we look to the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, we get that famous statement by Krishna to Arjuna saying that the only difference between you and I know my incarnations. I understand that what I am is that which cannot be destroyed, that which is eternal. The body is a vehicle. And he makes an analogy to worn out clothes. So just like you might, have a favorite shirt that you wear over and over and over, there might be an incarnation that you learned a little bit more in. It might be one of your favorite incarnations, but the fact is, more than likely, you've had many incarnations. Of course, there are new, what we would call souls, for lack of a better term, coming from source, the true God with a big G, all the time. So some are much more ancient than others. Some have gone through thousands of lives, maybe millions of lives. And others, maybe only hundreds. Maybe some have incarnated on tens of thousands of different planets and different star systems and have experienced so much more than other souls that are still relatively young, perhaps even a little bit gullible in some ways, or more trusting. And as we share with you guys, about 2/3, 70% of the people that are in the flesh here now, this is all they've known. There are others, starseeds, light workers, that have come in here from elsewhere, and they have even at times perhaps incarnated and called home 5D, where we are heading, or maybe even 6 or 7D, much higher densities than what we have here. So, that famous line that talks about worn out garments are just discarded by the user. Comes time to clean the closet. It's the same thing with bodies. Worn out bodies are discarded by the user. So Mother Mary showed up today and wanted to give us a message about what we really need right now, which is love. And I think the world could use a little nurturing, a little comforting.
I think people need that desperately, and it's like she did mention something about nurturing and the ability to receive nurturing too, depending on what you've been through in life. And some people have been through some things that are so difficult that they almost have, well, they do have a very, very difficult time accepting this love, accepting this nurturing from other beings, because that's not how they were taught. They had bad experiences with people who were supposed to be nurturers. So in a lot of ways, some things have been skewed as far as it goes, as far as accepting nurturing comes from. So that's something that we have to go within, find out if we have these problems in our lives, and repair that so we can receive love, receive nurturing in a positive, healthy manner.
And it was interesting, what she used was an analogy that might not make any sense to many people right off the bat. When she was talking about nurturing, but you have to think of it in terms of your soul, because the reason why we're here is to learn and to grow. And we do take with us our experiences. You cannot take with you any gold, any silver, any real estate, any fancy cars, none of that. But you do take your experiences. You do take all your choices with you and what you valued the highest. This is in so many ways, it's a school. It could be a playground under the right conditions. And Krishna, just to give you, for instance, when you look at the life of Krishna, he had fun. How about Yeshua? They criticized him for eating and dining and being with the wine imbibing sinners. And he is a serious being. You know, he does come across as very serious, um, always aware of the mission and the bigger thing that we are to, you know, work towards, which is the unity. The unity consciousness is ahead of us. And there's a lot of work to do because we are under constant assault by these dark, divisive forces. So when she was talking about nourishment, she brought up events that were basically traumatic. How could that be nourishment? Well, it's nourishment for the soul in that it brings growth. So when you nourish a plant and you give it water, it grows. When the soul goes through trying experiences, and there is that saying, that which does not kill me will only make me stronger. Well, the soul is imperishable. You can't burn it. You can't put the fire out with water. You can't destroy it. You can't cut it. You can't do anything to it. It's eternal. It always is going to be. What nourishes the soul is experience. And, you know, when you view your life, how many of you are going to be able to go back and remember every detail of a day that was just a run of the mill, ordinary day where nothing sticks out? Now, how many of you can go back and remember something that was really challenging or traumatic, or, you know, amazingly good, like the birth of your child? You know, you can maybe say, oh, well, I had shrimp scampi that night. I remember that. And then she went into labor and the water broke at the dining room table. And, you know, I was thankful I didn't have a second glass of wine while I drove her into the, you know, those things are going to stick out. You're going to remember every little detail. Conversely, you know, the challenging things, the tough events, you're going to remember every single detail. We take this on. Well, when we're in this bodysuit, there's a lot we can't remember from our previous incarnation or who we really are in that, well, who is this soul? Who is this immortal being that is really me? That, you know, you got to go deep to discover that. It doesn't come easy. If you're running on the wheel day in and day out, and all you're doing is just, you know, get a quick cup of coffee, you've got to run to work, oh, running late, oh, traffic, damn, you know, get into work, oh, look at all these emails, oh, I got this to do, I got that to do. You know, you're going crazy all day, you're running late getting out of work. Oh, well, you know, my wife, my husband said, can you stop by the store? We're out of this. You go running into the store, come out, somebody had banged a cart into your car, you get home, instead of, you know, oh, God, I missed you so much. It was such a long day without you, to your partner, you're irritable. You know, and then you put on the TV or you watch the news and it's all, you know, everything is about war and lockdowns and tragedies. And, you know, maybe, you know, you're supposed to stop at the store, you didn't bring a mask, you know, and then you're sweating that, wondering if they're going to give you grief.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much that we're up against, but when we recognize it, the biggest opportunity from growth comes from the most challenging experiences.
Mm.
So this is nourishment for the soul. It's not easy on us when we're in the body, but it's nourishment for the soul. The other realization we had from talking to Mary, and many of you might know of Gnosticism and Sophia, which is wisdom or divine wisdom. There's more than one Gnostic view on how creation happens, but it happens basically through the divine feminine. And again, when we go and look at Shiva and Shakti, Shiva ultimately means that which is not, referring to pure consciousness before any manifestation, before any physicality. It's through the divine feminine principle that everything comes into being. Now, we live obviously in a system that's not really easy, that's kind of geared towards selfish ways of the less than 1/10 of 1%. And we could even call this system dark and evil. But it doesn't mean that all 3D reality is supposed to be dark and evil. This is the system that we're in. It's not necessarily meant to be that way. But at the same time, it is creating opportunity for amazing growth if we can overcome. And there's the challenge again. Don't, even though we're in the world, don't become part of the system. Mm-hmm. We have to rise above it. And so Sophia is equated with the goddess. It's equated with the divine feminine. And basically, Mary is a avatar of that goddess energy. Mary is an avatar of the divine feminine, avatar of Sophia. It's interesting that before we had this conversation with her today, now she has shown up a lot lately for us, and she's always been with us. As a little boy, I went to bed and did the traditional thing. I got down and kneeled at the side of the bed, said my prayers. One of them was, my holy, Hail Mary, full of grace, from being brought up Catholic. And, it's really about our heart and our intention. Everything is about our heart and our intention. So, yes, there is a connection between the Gnostic goddess, Sophia, and Mary. And Mary is, again, unique too, because when we look back to the incarnations of Vishnu, Krishna, and Rama are very different beings. Mm-hmm. Rama is completely all business. He is just serious. You might even call him stoic. He's all about business, where Krishna, he's got a mischievous side. He's got a serious, playful side. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit of a prankster. He's always having fun. And, probably because the previous incarnation, he was very stoic and all business. Mm-hmm. Right. So he got to explore that. And, when we first encountered Krishna, he was always extremely playful. You would see his head popping out in different places. And
he did. He always showed himself as a cartoon to me.
Yeah, he would actually show himself as a cartoon character, kind of.
A big bubble-headed cartoon character.
Yeah, he was having fun with it. Mm-hmm. And, because the others don't come across that way. But every single one of these is a unique person. They're all unique people, but yet we could also say in some ways there are archetypes. So I was calling on two different archetypes of wisdom because I was searching guidance, thinking along those lines, from beings that I know I have a connection to, and then one that I have a connection to, one that I think I might have a connection to. Excuse me there. Now, Cindy, we didn't talk about it. She was calling out, thinking about Sophia. Mm-hmm. So she was searching, for wisdom from the divine goddess of wisdom herself. And we got Mary that came through. Mm-hmm. And Mary, as you see, nurturing baby Jesus. And we've talked about how, this is also a reflection of Isis and Horus as well. And again, it's the divine feminine that's coming into forms in many different ways. And yet, Radhe, who was the consort of Krishna, is right now. She still is. She's a complete being. She's still living her life in the higher densities. And yet, she is a form of Lakshmi, and Lakshmi is one that we're in contact with on an almost daily basis. And Lakshmi is living her life, but they're separate, but they're one. How could this be? Well, this is that whole thing about the Holy Trinity, but it extends out into all of consciousness. It's not just limited to any one beings, any one or two beings. This is how the universe works. So, your mom and your dad, let's say it was Carol and Bill, they had you. Now, after all three of you have passed from the physical, there's still Carol, there's still Bill, there's still you. All of them. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing on the spiritual side of things. When a spark, because we are all sparks of the eternal source of everything, but we're all individual sparks. Think about a fire that's roaring, and each spark that comes off starts a new fire that's burning. It could be viewed like that. Each one of them has the characteristics of the original, but they're separate fires. And so once you were, you always are. And yet you're part of a bigger whole. Mm-hmm. And that could be, well, that could be comforting. It could be inspiring. It could be confusing.
Yeah, I could say it could be mind-boggling too. But, you know, the reality of it is you get to do a lot of really cool things that you're not aware of, all while having this amazing journey and these amazing soul searches on this planet in this time. And you get to discover little things about yourself, like who you used to be, who you might have been, what things are you good at, and it's all about trying to remember who you are or who you used to be.
And we've talked about how the Bible has been hijacked in so many ways by the powers that be. There are some universal truths that are in there, as we've alluded to, Jacob's ladder, representing, again, the ladder of consciousness in so many ways. Where did he wrestle with the angel of God? At pineal gland. That's the key to the higher, realms. But the bridge to the higher realms is really in the heart chakra. When Moses encounters God, quote unquote, at the burning bush, and he asks him, "What's your name?" He says, "Ea Shareya," which just means "I am that I am." Now, the I am center is right below the heart center. That's the solar plexus center. That's all about me, me. As we go lower, you have the sacral chakra, and that's all about reproduction and passions and, physicality in that sense. And then we go down to the Muladhara, down at the root chakra, which is all about just survival and being in the first place. So as we go above, then you have your throat chakra, all about speaking your divine truth. You have the Ajna chakra, the third eye chakra, which gives you the ability to perceive the different realms that are all around us, just at different frequencies. Think of different octaves, just like you go up in scale. You have a high C, a low C, very similar with reality as well. And then we go on up to the crown chakra, which is really the gateway to the higher dimensions. Well, that bridge between the three upper and the three lower is the heart chakra. And we could equate that to 5D, mm-hmm. because that's what it is all about right now, is getting out of the lower frequencies that are all, you could view it like, in a sense, these are all service to self. This is all about survival, wants and desires, reproduction, and me, keeping me going. The love center is right in the middle. And then we go into the higher chakras. And these upper two are all about everything else that's around us. And really, when you get to the crown chakra, that's really what's connecting us to the angelic realms, to our higher self, the real us, which is on a much higher density. Also, source itself. So the heart is the key to connecting to your higher self. The heart chakra is so important. Think about what's going on with this PLAGUE upon the land. How many times do we hear of problems with what physical organ? The heart. Yeah, and again, everything that's going on right now, because we have a natural ascension that's going on right now. There's an imitation going on. And it's kind of like an imitation that leads in the reverse direction. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to recognize. So when you look at the main chakra centers, again, you could look at them like survival, sexuality, power, love, communication, intuition, and spirituality. And you could look at the spirituality and intuition. When you're really in contact, then you're going to be giving truer communication. Communication that's going to lead to gnosis, knowing. We could study things day in and day out, and you're never going to know. You have to experience to know. That's why, just look at our whole system, the way they teach. Just memorize things. Memorize what we tell you, If you can regurgitate it back properly and you get a certain percentage of it right, hey, you're going to pass. You'll eventually get that PhD. Everybody will trust you, even though you don't know a damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know with a G a damn thing, because it's experientially how we know. Otherwise, we are just being, well, I mean, we're just being basically kind of like monkeys in meat suits that have been trained to just do certain things, like a parrot. Give your parrot a treat when it says a certain phrase. Give your human a treat when it goes along with the status quo.
And that's how we've been taught in school. You get rewarded for what you can regurgitate the way they told you to regurgitate it.
We had a conversation with a doctor and recently, and it was really, really interesting because he talked about, well, first I got my bachelor's and I went farther, and then I got this, and I got my master's, and I got my PhD, and then I realized at one point after working as a doctor with PhDs that, holy crap, everything is inside out.
Yep.
You get to a certain point and you start to realize, well, I might have gotten that degree, but you know what? Now that I have experienced, I have that inner knowing, the inner gnosis that everything I learned is upside down and backwards.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. So this is all about the heart chakra, which is under attack right now. And so we need to protect our heart chakras. We need to allow ourselves time to be nurtured and to nurture each other. I was getting the impression again to restring a guitar I have that has a broken string, and don't sweat anything, but just put around with it, because that'll lead to peace, and that will help more than, say, getting more work done in the bigger scale of things.
Yeah, you gotta cultivate that creative nature of yourself and not always have yourself under the gun and under pressure, because when you're under the gun and under pressure, you can't flow freely. You can't bloom like that flower needs to bloom.
And as above, so below. When you look at the energy field of a human, it's a torus. We're drawing in energy from the feet, we're drawing in energy from the crown. It creates a torus field. The Earth has the exact same pattern. The galaxy has the same pattern. And again, our center is right at the heart. Heart-centered, heart-centered. When you think about Yeshua, he was heart-centered. And you look over his right shoulder to your left, you see the 6-rayed star. And many will equate it with the Star of David. What is it really denoting, though? There's a lot of different things you could look at it. There's trigrams in esoteric traditions, the Kabbalah, Gnosticism, and others, the Western mystery tradition, in which the elements are represented by triangles. And here you would have the intersection of basically a triangle pointing up and a triangle pointing down. It ultimately also refers to the light body, the Merkaba. And if you guys are familiar with the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which is an effective ritual, it's on the playlist that we have with mantras. It's an effective ritual to get rid of lower astral realm entities and nasty entities that attach onto us. Well, the 6-rayed star is what you visualize being inside the column of light that's coming from the heavens, from Source, the God with the big G. Not Enlil, not Enki, no Anunnaki, no Ijiji, none of these entities, these lower entities that are portraying themselves as God, but from Source itself. And also the energy coming from the earth, which is a representation of the Divine Mother, Divine Feminine. So we lie within that column. And within the column, with the balance of the energies of the yin and the yang, lies the 6-rayed star, because that's the key to developing our light body. And then we are no longer stuck in a 3D, 4D loop. We are outside of their influence. Now, we can make bad decisions, And, that might end up throwing lead weights on our ankles, so to speak, to make it harder for us to get out of this muck and mire. But ultimately, when your Merkaba is fully engaged, you're free to go.
Mm-hmm.
You got your pass.
Yep, it takes some work. It takes a lot of dedication, but it's doable, and we have the choice to do that here.
And I'll take that pass over the type of pass that's been made illegal in Texas and Florida, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And then to the right, we have the sign of Om, which is the universe itself, the sound of creation. And again, Yeshua is holding the heart center because he was trying to teach us the mysteries of ascension and the fact that, as he said, I and the Father are one. Doesn't mean that it's not the same for you, because the Father, Source, is within all of us. Not just him, not just any one being. And unconditional love is the cosmic glue that unites me and you. And this is the divine feminine, which has been so suppressed. This is the comforter, which we could view as Mother Mary, or Sophia, or maybe Isis, or a myriad of other different beings that are true beings in and of themselves, but they're still the universal mother at the same time.
Right. I mean, there's just so many different aspects you can look at things, but you do have to keep this one thing in mind, is this united oneness is such a beautiful thing, and to incorporate it in your everyday life with your family, your animals, those around you, and just continue to walk with that peace in your heart. And things will radiate from your heart out from where you are. But you're the center point. You're the most important point in your universe. And when you can display that kind of love and radiation, it shows in those around you.
Right. And your universe, well, it's you. Yes, as Cindy was saying. Yeah, that was beautifully said. You universe. And I know our brother Netsiah is always doing these little things playing with words like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he'll like that.
Universe. See, each one of us is source exploring the universe. Your turn, your verse, right? Your stanza, the way you write this story, it's up to you. Now, that doesn't mean that the dark forces are going to just disappear overnight. They're still here, but it's all about how we react to them. What do they want? They want us to become like them. Ultimately, that's what they want. Then they win. They get to keep our company for maybe another life, 10 lives, 100 lives, 1,000 lives, 10,000 lives. Hey, they just want your company, and they're not fun to be with.
Mm-hmm.
They are not fun at all. I'd rather spend my time with Yeshua and Buddha and Mary and Sophia and Lakshmi and Kuan Yin and all these Isis. I mean, all these beautiful beings of true love and light that are overflowing with compassion and yet have amazing knowledge and can guide us and show us so many magnificent things. So connect with the divine feminine in any way that you find comfortable. Maybe if you are of a Christian persuasion, you choose Mary. Maybe if you are also of an Islamic or Judaic tradition, you choose some aspect of that as well, or something totally different. It's up to you. Again, one size does not fit all. And that's what they are always trying to get us to do. Conditioned response, fall in line. Do not think for yourself. That's the motto of this system.
If you want to connect to the divine feminine, I think it's about connecting to nurturing. I think it can start with just nurturing yourself. If you don't have any one, divine feminine aspect to pick out, start by nurturing yourself, and things can bloom from there.
If you have a little one and they are going on the bike for the first time and they crash and they bring over their owie to you and scrape knee, and I think most of the parents out there, are going to give them a little love, give them a pat on the head, maybe a little pat on the butt, whatever, and tell them to hop back on board and get back on there. You could do this. I believe in you. Sometimes we need that too, and that's perfectly fine. And they are there for us. I'm blessed in that I have Cindy, and she is an amazing channel. So, my life has gotten so much richer by being able to share communications with these beings, and they come through and they're very unique. Her voice totally changes. And really, it's through lifetimes of her work, as well as the fact that she comes from a very high density, which, even just a little while ago, I didn't understand, and I'm still trying to fully understand.
Me too.
Well, and Mary shared that too, because I asked her, were you aware of the mission of Yeshua when you came into the body as Mary? And she said, when we take on this veil, we lose our ability to perceive so many things, but that's part of the point, because it's a unique experience. If you knew, again, if you had all the answers to a test, it's called cheating, right? Cheat sheet. It somehow, maybe it feels okay to some people if they had all the answers. I don't know how it could be satisfying personally to just pass, but it's because you cheated, because you had all the answers. We don't want to cheat. And at the same time, I gotta tell you the truth. I mean, I'm always prying to get more info. I'm always asking questions that toe the line until they tell me, well, we can't talk about that exactly, but we can't tell you this. And so, they've given me things to stimulate thought that I'm sharing with you guys. And there's a lot more to come, because in reality, uh, we have tens of hours of voice recordings. Now I don't know, maybe we have 40, 50 hours of voice recordings to go through. But a lot of it is of a personal nature with what we're going through on a personal basis, but we still try to put it into a message that everybody can relate to and use. Because ultimately, why is Cindy and I, why are we both here? We're here for this. We're not here to be millionaires. We're not here to do anything but to help with the transition. That's why we're both here. We know our mission. And as I've shared with you guys in the past, I know there's a lot of new people. I was somebody that I didn't even know what I wanted to do at 45. It was a slow evolution of realizing who I am. And it took, 50 years to realize who I am, pretty much. It just kept evolving. And I think that most of us maybe never really know who we really are. But in some ways, that's part of the point, because it's self-discovery that comes after when we do our life review.
And then that can be so rewarding when you make these new when you connect these new dots, and you make these new perceptions, and you come to these new understandings all on your own. I mean, the reward in that, there's no comparison.
So, take that part and hold on to it. You, again, no matter what happens to the physical vehicle, you're going to be. You will always be. And, we are eternal beings. That's the bottom line. This is one incarnation amongst many, and perhaps amongst innumerable incarnations for many souls. It's all about what we learn, it's all about how we react, and that will equate to soul growth and soul evolution as we make our way back up into the higher densities, closer again to reunification with Source at some point in time.
Right.
But again, it doesn't mean that we stop being. So that's the beauty of it. Thanks so much for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon, guys. Thanks also for checking out Medicinal Foods. Man, the feedback's been wonderful for everybody out there so far that we've seen. All the feedback's great, good stuff. Does help support the channel. Spread the love. Recognize that's how they're attacking. They're attacking the heart chakra through fear, through anger, through all these different things. Cultivate the love inside. Cultivate the compassion inside. God bless. Namaste.
Namaste.